Welcome back to the channel. And tonight, a couple of big OHL games. We've got the Kitchener Rangers. They're traveling to Guelph to face the Storm, a classic Highway 7 rivalry. And then first place on the line in the East Division between the Brantford Bulldogs and the Oshawa Generals. So a lot of storylines to follow tonight. But before we get to the games, how about we take a look at some of the news that's happening around the Ontario Hockey League? We're going to start things off with the Barrie Colts as they announced a signing. They have brought in Noah Smith as they continue to look to their future. They've signed him to an OHL scholarship and education agreement that was announced this morning. For Smith, he's a 10th round draft pick of the Barrie Colts from the 2022 draft. He's also a pretty big and physical defenseman. He's 6'2", 185 pounds, right now playing with the Trenton Golden Hawks in the OJHL. As I mentioned, he's a physical defenseman, kind of a stay-at-home defender, so don't expect a lot of points. So in 25 games in Trenton so far this season, a goal and 5 assists, so good for 6 points. And Smith, he was at training camp with the Barrie Colts this year, but sent back down to Tier 2 for further work on his development. That's what Marty Williamson said in a statement. But the Colts, they seem to like what they see. So congratulations, Noah Smith, on your signing. And hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll see Smith in a Colts uniform as this team looks to try and make the playoffs this year. And then, of course, looking to improve over the next few seasons. It was also announced yesterday, this is a pretty cool announcement, that the Saginaw Spirit, they'll be retiring Brandon Saad's number 22. And it's a very special year already for the Saginaw Spirit. Of course, they're hosting the Memorial Cup this year. And now they're going to retire Saad's number 22 February 23rd when they take on the North Bay Battalion. So it's really cool what the Saginaw Spirit are doing. And this is now the second jersey number to be retired by the Spirit organization. The other number they retired was Vincent Trocheck's number 89. So Trocheck and Brandon Saad, they'll have the numbers up at the Dow Event Center. And just looking at the history of Brandon Saad, he was the 10th overall pick for the Saginaw Spirit in the 2008 OHL draft. He appeared in 103 games with the Spirit, registering 61 goals, which is 18th in franchise history, and it had 131 points, which is 27th in franchise history. So he made his mark in his time with the Saginaw Spirit in the Ontario Hockey League and now being recognized. He had a really good professional career, too, with the Chicago Blackhawks, winning 2 Stanley Cups there in 2013 and 2015. So Saginaw fans pretty excited to honor Brandon Saad with this retirement jersey number. And it'll be a fun show down February 23rd. And, of course, the North Bay Battalion, one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. So the fans getting a great night to celebrate a former player, and they'll also get to see a pretty exciting game between the Spirit and the Battalion. Now, this one is an interesting news item. It was first discussed on the OHL podcast with Mike Farwell. If you don't tune into the podcast with Mike Farwell, I highly recommend it. They do have a lot of great stuff on their show. And this week, bringing up an interesting tidbit of information. I don't know how factual this is. I've sent out a couple texts. Nothing has been confirmed, but Farwell mentioned that the Mississauga Steelheads could be on the move, and the landing spot, Brampton. So about 10 minutes away from the Paramount Fine Food Center. The rumor is they could be setting up shop at the CAA Center. Of course, we're in the middle of the season, so nothing has been confirmed, but we're starting to get a little more speculation in regards to the Steelheads. This has been a franchise that's been kind of in the rumor mill for quite some time, especially when you look at the attendance issues. The average attendance this year, 2,272. That's last in the league. Second last right now, the Owen Sound Attack at 19th. Their average attendance is 2,683. So you can see there's a significant drop-off between the Attack and the Steelheads. And of course, Owen Sound playing at a smaller facility at the Bayshore, and they also they're one of the smallest markets in the Canadian Hockey League. So I don't think we have to worry about the Owen Sound Attack's future because they're community supported. But for Mississauga, being in a city, a part of the GTA, it is a little concerning about how limited spectators attend the games. The Mississauga Steelheads, a team that's been competitive throughout their existence, and they've been to the OHL final. They were last year there in 2017 when they lost to the Erie Otters. So for the Mississauga Steelheads, they've been signing 1-year lease agreements these last few years, which is another sign that things are a little uncertain with the hockey team. So a move could be possible, but is Brampton really the solution? That's my question. Because, of course, Brampton, they had the battalion from 1998 to 2013, so they're familiar with the OHL. But in their final year before moving to North Bay, they had the lowest average attendance in the OHL at 2,191. So that was a problem for them too when they were playing. It was called the Powerade Center at the time. And that season, so the 2012-2013 season, the 19th team for average attendance were the Mississauga Steelheads. Their average attendance that season was 2,337. And that's higher than what they have right now by 65 people. So as you see there, not much has really changed from 2013 to 2024. And the thought at the time was when the battalion moved to North Bay was, okay, you're going to have now one team in Peel region. So that should, maybe the fans from Brampton would then travel to Mississauga because it's really a short drive between those two arenas. And I know that was a big question when the OHL expanded in 1998, putting a team in Brampton and Mississauga. But if you look at the numbers, they only saw an increase of 248 fans when the battalion moved to North Bay the following season. However, that put the Mississauga Steelheads ahead of Peterborough, Plymouth, and Belleville that season for average attendance. So it was an uptick, but it really didn't make that much of a difference. And you notice there, Plymouth and Belleville, those two teams have both relocated since, not necessarily for attendance reasons, but for other ownership issues. With Plymouth, they were moving because Pete Hermanos was selling the team and then ended up going to Flint. And then for Belleville, they moved to Hamilton because Michael Andlauer wanting a team at the First Ontario Centre after the AHL Bulldogs moved to St. John's, Newfoundland. So it was an interesting time for both of those franchises. They both moved at the same time, but still, attendance is something that you want to look at. So the Paramount Fine Food Center, it is a beautiful junior hockey rink. It has a seating capacity of 5,420 seats, free parking, but it can be challenging to get to, especially if it's a weeknight game. Traffic in Mississauga can be a real pain. Plus, it's not the easiest arena to get to off a major highway. You can see the Paramount Fine Food Center from the 403, but you have to get off the highway down a bit, and then you have to go through the neighborhood, several traffic lights, and then turning left onto Rose Cherry Street. It can be a bit of a struggle, especially for out-of-town visitors. I can't imagine what it's like for those who go on a regular basis, but still some flaws with the location of the arena. But the CAA Center in Brampton, it is a smaller facility. It has a seating capacity of 4,774 seats. A little easier to get off of the major highway. That's the 410. You get off at Derry Road, and you're basically right there at the rink. So it's to me, I feel like it's a bit of a downgrade going from the Mississauga rink to the Brampton, although it did go through some upgrades. The Brampton Beast to the ECHL played there for a few seasons. They ended up folding in 2020, so they haven't had a hockey team playing out of that arena since 2020, so it's been 4 years. But they did get some upgrades, including the Jumbotron at center ice. That's something the Brampton Battalion were lacking. If you remember, if you ever went to a game, they had a purple scoreboard at center ice. All it gave you was the bare minimum of information. The shots on net, the score, and the penalties. That was it. It was bare bones, but they have upgraded that since. And the Battalion, they've just, I don't know. The Battalion are doing, I think, a lot better in North Bay. We've seen growth with that organization. I know there's been questions about attendance these last couple years in North Bay, but it's a lot better than what we saw in Brampton. So if you're taking the Mississauga Steelheads into Brampton, it feels kind of like a step down. If you've ever been to the Paramount Fine Food Center, you know the vantage point there. The sight lines are fantastic. It's a bigger atmosphere, and you've got wider concourses at the Paramount Fine Food Center than what you have at the CAA Center. But if they are going to move, if that is something that's seriously being considered, you have to figure that it's got to be some sort of a sweet deal that the city of Brampton is offering. There have been discussions. Patrick Brown, the mayor of Brampton, has said publicly after the move of the Brampton Beast that he wants to see the American Hockey League or the Ontario Hockey League back in his city. He feels that it could work if you get the right team in there. And this seems as though that's the direction we might be heading in. We'll have to wait and see. Nothing has been confirmed. Typically, when there is a relocation, we hear about it before January 1st. So then it gives time for the schedule maker to make those arrangements, and then the team can prepare for their new home. But since it's a short distance away, maybe they don't need to have that kind of timeline. We've had, as I mentioned, the Belleville Bulls, when they moved to Hamilton, that was a quick turnaround. It was like maybe a month before the end of the regular season, we found out that the Belleville Bulls were moving to Hamilton. And then when the Bulldogs moved to Brantford, we had that short time as well. But that was for Brantford was really just trying to find a place to play because of the renovations that were scheduled to take place at the First Ontario Centre. So they were kind of forced out in regards to that. So we'll have to wait and see. Like I said, I haven't heard anything official that the Mississauga Steelheads will be moving or are looking to move. But there are some other markets, I think, that might be worth looking into if a relocation is something that the Mississauga Steelheads are exploring. Starting off, Chatham-Kent City Council there. They've been looking at building a new 4,000-seat arena downtown Chatham. That's been a work in progress for the last few years. They don't have shovels in the ground yet. I know they're looking at a mall site as a possibility. There's also the library that's in the discussions there. So Chatham City Council trying to get something going. The Chatham Maroons and the GOGHL, they play in the Memorial Center, which is a very old arena, so it's not up to OHL standard. So they want to build a rink. So keep an eye on Chatham. I think they're a team you could look for down the road. There's also Hamilton, the First Ontario Centre. It's supposed to go under a major renovation, which has not yet started. And it's because of that renovation, the Bulldogs moved to Brantford. So that's another city that could host the OHL once again. There's Brantford. They're looking to build a 5,000-seat arena. They want the OHL to stay. They've embraced the Brantford Bulldogs. And if they can keep the Bulldogs after the 3-year agreement, they would be happy. So Brantford City Council right now looking to build an arena. So if the Bulldogs don't work out, that's another spot the Steelheads could end up in the future if they're willing to wait that long. And the last option, Cornwall. The Civic Complex, rather, it has a capacity of 5,000. It is an older facility. It used to play host to the Cornwall Royals, who departed in 1992. So they were also an option that was being considered by the Bulldogs when they were looking at cities to play in as a temporary location while the renovations were taking place at the First Ontario Centre. So if the Bulldogs considered Cornwall, why not Mississauga? So I know that they're not going to be open about it, the team, but from what I'm hearing from people that I've messaged today, nothing has been confirmed, and some of them haven't heard anything as of yet in regards to this. The only time I've heard about it was, of course, as I mentioned on the OHL podcast with Mike Farwell. He said he's got some sources he's heard it from. So if there's smoke, there might be fire. So that's all I got to say about this. It is fun to speculate in regards to situations like this, but it's really too bad because Mississauga, they've had so many great teams there, great talent. They're a good team again this year. Their arena is fantastic. The only thing missing is the fan support, and they do have some diehard fans. We talked to Mikey Kay, who does the play-by-play on the road for Mississauga. He's even said it himself. The fan support there, their diehard fans are outstanding. Some of the best in the OHL. It's just unfortunate that more people haven't been going to these games. So that's the situation right now with the Mississauga Steelheads. Do they move to Brampton? We'll have to wait and see. If I find out more details, I'll share it here. But let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts on the situation involving Mississauga. Do you think Brampton is a good place to go back to from the Ontario Hockey League, or would you like to see another location? Or what are your thoughts on the signing for the Barrie Colts or any of the other news items happening around the Ontario Hockey League? Love to see the discussions. Let me know in the comments down below. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.